Well, hello and welcome to episode number 346 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and in this week's show, there's an incident in Spain involving everyone's favourite UK legacy carrier. In the same week, they sell off their family silver, and one airline is offering a free layover hotel if you fly with them. And it's time to get comfortable as one German carrier offers lie-flat beds in economy. In the military, we get an up-to-date on the Fatal F-16CM Crash at Shaw Air Force Base, and the Italian Army says goodbye to their faithful Hueys. It's the final part of our chat with Neil Cloughley of Faradair, and in this week's Plain Truth, Tony S. has his question answered by Captain Al. And also, it's a very special weekend this weekend because it's Matt's birthday on Sunday. And joining me this week in the PTUK studio, as always, it's the awesome Matt Smith.
I've already told you my birthday isn't happening this year because of this whole silly, stupid COVID. It's not happening. It's a figment of everyone's imagination. That's what it is. It's also a jolly good excuse to remain 43 for one more year. Is the way I'm looking at it.
I think what I might do this year, Matt, I'm going to get you a birthday cake, but it's going to have the complete wrong picture of you on it.
Oh, right, again. Oh, that'll be nice. Yeah. Carlos, you'll have to explain that. You realise.
So I'm going to explain that one quickly
Very
for you guys.
quickly before we get shouted at.
Many years ago, we had a birthday for Matt. We went to a restaurant for Matt's birthday. Load of us all together, group of us. They brought out a birthday cake because there was various birthday parties going on in the restaurant. Brought out a birthday cake for Matt with a photo on the front.
We all sang happy birthday and everything.
We all sang happy birthday, and they put the cake down in front of Matt. And the cake was meant for another table, and it wasn't Matt.
Not me at all. It wasn't even me on the birthday cake. That was the most hilarious thing. I've never seen people whisk in and whisk off a cake so fast. And then they literally went round the outside. So they went out through the front door, round the back, came back in, and then happy birthday to you. So off it went again. It was the funniest thing literally ever. Anyway, carrying on.
But joining us this week, as always, is the awesome man himself, the connoisseur of fine ales and wines. It is, of course, Neville Barnes.
That's very nice of you, Carlos. Thank you. That's a very sad story about Matt's birthday situation. I didn't realise that had happened. That was
yes, it's quite tragic, really. As well, his birthday's not till Sunday, actually. So it's
yes.
I mean, Boris could change his mind between now and then, and perhaps we could all go out and get drunk.
Anything could happen.
No, well, quite.
Good to be on the show again. Thanks very much indeed for
always a pleasure.
Tuning in, everybody. And
We've got a special request coming on the line, Nev. Could we have an update on the banana?
Yes, the banana is being repaired as I speak, and they have given me a Seat Leon.
Right, that's
and they have claimed to have validated it before they gave it to me.
Right,
but I would beg to differ.
Yes, absolutely.
So hopefully you should be back on Friday of next week.
Is that one of those, Nev, where you wiped your feet on the way out? That's
right,
Okay.
definitely.
Lovely. What a treat.
Is that one of those top of the range 1 litre Seats?
Do you know what? It is a 1 litre one, but rather concerningly, it's only slightly slower than my car.
Oh dear!
And I've got
a fraction of the cost.
Have a think about that. I think.
Wow. Okay.
These 3-cylinder 1 litre jobs are extremely fast.
Really?
And as they say, what's the fastest car you've ever driven? And the answer is a rental car.
So Neville will be thrashing the out of that this weekend.
Well, it's what's his name? Jeremy Clarkson, wasn't it? He said you ask Jeremy Clarkson what the fastest car in the world is, and he'll always say a hire car.
So, joining us this week, he's not here yet, but he should be with us very soon. Of course, is Armando. He's currently whisking his way to his studio, so hopefully Armando will be joining us very soon indeed. But top of the show then, as always, we are going to say a quick hello to everyone on YouTube. And also, don't forget, if you are listening to the show as an audio podcast and you want to join in the chat room fun, don't forget to go over to our YouTube page, search for us on there, youtube.com/Plain Talking UK. You can hit the subscribe button and that bell icon as well, which is right next to it, to be notified when we go live and record new episodes. And you can join everyone in the chat room, who this week we've got loads of the usual family members in. Lane Street, hello to you, Lane. Jacob Darlington Brown, my God, it must be early where you are. Richard Adams, Captain Cruz. We've got Rakon, hello to you, Rakon. Alan Loveday, Stephen H, just scrolling down the list, make sure I don't miss anyone out. James Russell, hello to you, James. Richard Adams, Pilot Pips in there as well this week. Masha, hello to you, Masha. Hope you're well. Scrolling down, Tony S. Graham Haley, hello to you, Graham. Looking forward to tomorrow's kitchen disco, no doubt.
Shameless plug there.
And also Sturman, hello to you, Gareth Sturman, joining us in the chat room as well. Hope you are well as well this evening. So big thanks to everyone who has joined us in the YouTube chat room this evening.
Nev, I wonder if I could trouble you to just sort of promo a little something that will be available on YouTube on Sunday, actually, when we're done, because you had a little bit of a flight, didn't you? Not a real one, sadly.
I never left the ground, though. But, a couple of weeks ago I was doing some filming with the A320 podcast guys, and they very kindly let me have a go in the A320 simulator up in Cambridge. And it wasn't just a normal flight, it was an engine failure after takeoff, manual circuit and ILS approach and landing, all flown by myself. So if you want to see the catastrophe that occurred, then please stay tuned until the end of the show. We're actually going to make it as a special feature, goodness knows why. But we'll put it up on the YouTube channel. But stay right to the end of the show, and
we'll share that with the rest of you. Absolutely. And if you are listening to the audio version of the show, you'll find that on YouTube. Just go to our Plain Talking UK channel on YouTube, and you'll find the video there for you to be able to enjoy in all its HD glory.
And John actually sent me a copy of the video early today. Our producer John. I listened to Nev and the 320, and the audio was so clear. It was just whoop whoop pull up, whoop whoop pull up, the whole video. So yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
I did worry. I do worry about you sometimes, Carlos. Anyway, should we do some news stories?
Yes, we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if all the team's ready, let's go.
Well, the first story is on Sam Chewy's website. I do like Sam Chewy. He does a good blog and website, doesn't he? But it's a bit of a tragedy, I'm afraid. I have actually flown on this very aircraft in question on a flight from Heathrow to Los Angeles, probably about 11 years ago. Something like that, to one of our trade shows over there. But it says on the 23rd of November at Castellon Airport in Spain, a stored British Airways Boeing 747-400 caught fire. The aircraft, which was registration of Golf Charlie India Victor Delta, made a ferry flight for retirement and dismantling to the airport in mid-August. Since then, the 26-year-old aircraft has been stored at a remote stand. Well, according to Levante newspaper, as explained by the Provisional Deputy for Firefighters, the fire started whilst operators were working on the 747. It's believed that the fire occurred due to an oxygen pipe being cut and subsequently igniting, although the cause is still being investigated. As a precaution, the planes that were nearby the burned aircraft have been relocated. The fire only affected the front of the aircraft and nobody was injured. Well, Victor Delta was delivered to BA in December of 1994. And since January 2014, it's been adorned with the One World special colours. Its last commercial flight was between Heathrow and Lagos on April the 18th. In total, it's made 13,398 flights, which equates to 118,445 hours and 59 million miles. So it's certainly done very well for the airline, but what a tragic end to it.
I know, absolutely.
It's done 59 million miles, in complete safety. and it spends a couple of weeks on the ground, and this happens. So thank goodness nobody was hurt. But that could have been a whole load worse than it was, couldn't it? So.
Indeed. I mean, we're just sort of playing some of the video footage and things there. I mean, it's the whole top deck is completely
it was
trashed,
well alight,
isn't it?
wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Not serviceable again. I don't think. It's quite the incident. Let's be honest.
Even though it's going to be scrapped, it is always a shame to see things like this happen.
Yeah,
I know they're going to get cut up and scrapped anyway, but it's always a shame when you see aircraft being burned. I should say, like this.
Yeah. As you say, well, and also having to move all the other aircraft out of the way, of course, is a bit of a
Lane Street in the chat room. Dodgy insurance scam.
Oh, really? You reckon it's a dodgy insurance scam? Do you?
Lane's on form already.
Oh, don't they? Okay, but sorry, John's just saying in my ear. Apparently, BA don't own that aircraft anymore. I presume it's sort of. I don't know. Is it owned by the breakers now, or is it
owned by the breakers yard now?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, dear. Yeah. Oh, well, there we go. Okay, all right. So we'll move on to the next story then, and this is story 2. It's a Ryanair story, which we haven't had for a while, because basically all he's been doing is upsetting people. So anyway, Ryanair will not require, interestingly enough, proof of vaccine for European flights. So a requirement for passengers to have a COVID-19 vaccine to fly is not really relevant for short-haul flights in Europe. The CEO of Ryanair, Eddie Wilson, has said. He said that Europe will be an entirely different landscape next year compared to nations that only have to consider their own border rules. He was speaking after the head of Australian airline Qantas announced yesterday it is likely passengers would need a jab, and that would be needed before boarding international flights when they resume. The Dublin-born Alan Joyce told Australia's 9 News he thinks a vaccine will be a necessity for passengers coming into and out of Australia. Ryanair's Eddie Wilson today said that such a plan would be more effective in a place like Australia, as one of the only ways to get there is via air travel. However, he suggested that if someone in Europe failed to get a vaccine for a flight, they could just cross the borders by land. He suggested in Paris, if they were to choose no vaccination, you just get a train instead. In terms of Christmas travel this year, Mr. Wilson said Ryanair will be putting on around 40 extra flights in the week or so leading up to Christmas Day. Irish health officials such as Dr. Tony Hoblan and senior ministers have encouraged people not to travel to Ireland from abroad for Christmas. However, Mr. Wilson said that people should look at the EU traffic light system. Ryanair boss claimed international travel gets a bad rap from the likes of NFET, which is Ireland's national public health emergency team, but he believes people coming home for Christmas will be far more responsible. So I mean, now we're sort of mentioning indeed. Sorry, I'm having. Yeah, they said will be responsible, basically, as in much more. They'll perhaps be more sensible. But I mean, I think, some of us are reaching. Some of us are reaching a point. Actually, I don't know how you guys feel. Actually, because again, it's been announced here in the UK, for example, that you'll be allowed to have. I think was it 3 households that are allowed to sort of get together over Christmas.
Yeah, it's 3 households.
I mean, a lot of us are sort of almost reaching a point where we almost don't care. Do you know what I mean? We've reached a point now where we haven't seen our family and friends for so long that, and I know it's wrong, but you're sort of just thinking, oh, stuff it, should we just all get together and sod the rules? And I know that's wrong, but I guess it's bring on the vaccine is what I say. But going back more to this story, I mean, what do we? Who do you? I mean, he's got a huge, very valid point here. I mean, are they going to make people travelling on the Eurostar, for example? Have they got to have the vaccine as well? I mean, you've got road borders and things too. I mean, it does seem, if what he says is true, it does seem terribly unfair that the aviation industry is being expected to make sure everybody's travelling having been vaccinated.
Well, Yes, I agree with that. But I think there's some, what should we say?
Oh,
They
careful.
seem to be making it up as they go along, some of
Right.
these folks, don't they? There's lots of rumour and speculation and very little fact. I mean, why not add the Isle of Man into that equation as well in that case? Because obviously they've got a very low infection rate because they are a tiny island in the middle of the North Sea, in the Irish Sea between the UK and Ireland. But I think that there will be, surprisingly, I think some common sense will prevail at some point because out of all of the industries, it's been the hospitality and transportation sector that's been hit the most with this virus by a long way. And obviously there's been a huge number of deaths as well. That's terribly tragic. But in terms of getting business back on the rails again, as it were, they've got to do something to make sure that they can do it. Now, whether it's a phased approach or what it is, I don't know, but we'll have to see. I think there's more to play out here, definitely.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's lots of great comments here in the chat room. I mean, Stephen H has got a great point actually here. It's saying, it's sort of if you're a person who's living on their own, it's it's a bit of a waste of a household allocation, for example. I mean, it's a good point, isn't it?
It's a struggle to think about what we're all going to do, obviously, ahead with the Christmas and stuff period coming up and everyone wanting to see their own families. For us, as a family, as everyone will probably know, I lost my granddad early this year and I still want to go and see my nana during Christmas, but we've got to try and work out how to do this, with meeting other members of our family as well. And
absolutely.
should I do this? Should I not do that? It's all common sense and... Yeah, but
yes. Anyway,
as long as the industry gets back to normal as soon as
possible, absolutely. Yes, that is true. Roll on the vaccine. That's what I say.
Roll out.
Indeed.
So, moving on to the next story. This one that comes from a number of sources, including Simple Flying, turning left for less, Flight Global as well. So the headline: WIZZ Air unhappy that unused Gatwick slots remain blocked. Oh dear. We've covered in the past the fact that airport slots are extremely valuable assets. Normally, in order to retain slots at an EU airport, an airline has to use 80% of its slots. Of course, with COVID, things are different, and there is currently a waiver program in place which sees airlines retaining their slots through to March 27th, 2021, without having to fly a single flight. As one of the few airlines continuing to expand, WIZZ hopes to pick up more slots at London Gatwick. However, the current waiver on the usual slots means rules that have, for WIZZ, has been forced to slow its growth in the London market. While Gatwick Airport is fast becoming a low-cost battleground, slot restrictions mean new airlines cannot break into the airport just yet. Several airlines have left or reduced Gatwick services this year, including Virgin Atlantic on Norwegian, but are yet to relinquish their slots. This isn't the first time WIZZ has spoken out against the slot waivers, even calling them a nonsense. The airline has called the measures waivers against the free market, saying they protect incumbent airlines with weak business models. Currently, nearly $2 billion worth of slots are blocked at Gatwick Airport. CEO Joseph Vardy said in a statement as seen by Reuters, he says, "We can keep deferring to COVID-19 forever. But the fact of the matter is that there are airlines who are able to recover quickly. There are airlines that will be dragging along for a long time and may never come out of this. It's almost criminal to hold the slots they don't have any intention to operate." Other notable people have spoken against the extension, including Gatwick CEO Stuart Wingate and Ryanair boss Michael O'Leary. But not every airline at Gatwick is leaving their slots unused each day. After a month of suspended operations due to a second lockdown and a travel ban imposed on its citizens by the British government, BA will once again fly from Gatwick in December this year. Yay, well done, Nev. The airline will gradually increase its flights from Gatwick to 36 flights weekly by the 14th of December to 11 destinations in Mexico and the Caribbean, which is always good. It's good news, I suppose, for staff at BA, Nev, having that news.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole thing. I think there was some kidology going on when BA a few months ago said, right, we're pulling out of Gatwick, that's the end of it. I'm sure there was conversations going on behind the scenes, because when BA could see that there was the possibility of a return, they are coming back big time by the looks of it, with a very bold schedule as well from what I've seen, and that's presumably why the other airline operators aren't being allowed their slots, because BA have said they're going to come back. So
I definitely see WIZZ's point, though. You know, it is a bit,
me too.
yeah, it's a bit kind of, if you're not going to use the slots, then, or never ever going to lose a slot or use the slots, then, you know, you may as well give them up to someone who is.
Yeah, do we think it's a strategic plan, perhaps, by BA?
Well, I think that BA have traditionally always been at Gatwick as what I would call the holiday airport, with an awful lot of flights to the Caribbean, for example, and, you know, other far-flung destinations, as well as some regular set schedule stuff as well. But obviously the main base is at Heathrow, but the BA did have a very large operation at Gatwick up until the pandemic. So I think they'll be back in a fairly big way. Was it strategic? Probably, because the cost saving associated with that, obviously. But we won't know until they come back. But no, they are going to come back in quite a big way, which obviously, from a personal point of view, I'm pleased to see.
Nev, Captain Cruz in the chat room says, a question you might be able to answer: does Freddie Laker still have slots at London Gatwick?
Well, that's a very good question, isn't it? Have they reserved a few just in case he should return from somewhere with his DC-10?
With his DC-10, the Sky Trains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Good point. Very good point.
Oh,
I literally have no idea what you two are talking about.
Really good. So Freddie Laker was the would you say the pioneer, Nev, of low-cost travel?
He was the pioneer of low-cost carriers.
Transatlantic travel.
The US, basically. That was the biggest thing.
Imagine a Michael O'Leary from the 80s, sort of 70s, 80s.
So a big moustache.
But he flew DC-10s.
Cool.
I think the Dash 30s. I think he flew actually the DC-10.
Wow.
But they're back in the day. But he was one of the pioneers.
And obviously, when the company collapsed, it was one of the biggest collapses that had ever happened.
And why did he collapse, Nev? What company upset him?
Oh, probably. Well, possibly some competition from other airlines that I may or may not have favoured in the past.
I see. Worrying.
But actually, Virgin Atlantic was. I know Richard Branson saw Freddie Laker as very much a pioneer in this area, and that's why when Virgin started their first service to Newark Airport from Gatwick, it was very much modelled on the way that Laker was able to operate.
Oh wow! Okay. Gosh, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, they actually went bankrupt in 1982, Nev.
Gosh, that's a long time ago.
Yes, that is. Yes. Yeah, you and I were 6, Carlos. That was a while ago. Anyway, moving on to the next story, and this is on Flight Global, and the headline is Alaska to swap Airbus A320s for the Boeing 737 MAX. It's a bit of a shock, isn't it, really? So Alaska Airlines will sell 10 Airbus A320s, shifting to 13 more fuel-efficient leased Boeing 737-9 MAXes, probably because they can get an amazing deal on them, which will be delivered from the end of 2021 through 2022. The Seattle-based airline says on the 23rd of November that it will lease back the Airbus, the aircraft, for a short period of time after the transaction closes. The A320s will go to the Stephen Udvar-Hazy Air Lease Corporation, which will also lease the Boeing jets to the carrier. We found an opportunity to sell 10 planes that are not in our long-term plans and replace them with 13 of the most efficient narrow-body aircraft available, says Alaska's chief executive Brad Tilden. The airline said in early October that it was looking to shed the Airbus fleet, accelerating its cost savings transition back to an all-Boeing fleet. Alaska had operated had operated only 737s before acquiring Virgin America in 2018. According to the Syrian Fleet's data, Alaska has 51 A320s, including 30 that are currently in storage. These leased Boeing 737-9 aircraft will fill an important role on Alaska's diverse route network, bringing the most technologically advanced and environmentally attractive aircraft type into Alaska's fleet, just in time as we expect the airline industry will undergo a sustainable recovery starting in 2021. Alaska says that the MAX has more range, which opens up the possibility of additional non-stop routes and new destinations. The 13 MAX aircraft will be in addition to the 32 aircraft that Alaska currently has on order with Boeing. The airline expects 5 of those to be delivered by mid-2021. The carrier also operates 166 737 new NG. What's that? New
next generation
737s. The database also shows. So Alaska plans to return its 737 MAX to its schedule from March 2021 after the FAA recertified it last week following a 20-month grounding. So it's a very positive story for the long-suffering MAX, I guess. I mean, there does seem. I mean, am I misreading it? Obviously, with the FAA certifying it last week and things like that. Is there confidence perhaps coming back into this aircraft? Deathly silence. Brilliant. Thank you, gentlemen.
I think yeah. with what's
Nobody
gone
knows
on
the
over
answer,
the last
I guess.
week.
Yeah,
with what's gone over the last week, I think there is a lot more.
Yeah.
I listened to another show this week where they were chatting to a pilot who was a pilot of a 737, but not the MAX, but the original 73. And he was saying that, with everything that's gone on, he said that he's more than looking forward to moving on to learning and training on the MAX, to fly the MAX, because he said it would be the most safest aircraft. I
think we've all said that, haven't we? It's just because, they're going to be very, very confident that, it's going to be good. If you see what I mean, once it gets back in the air.
Alaska, actually, to be fair, Alaska have been a lover of Boeing for a while. They were one of the biggest or biggest users of the original. If you remember, Nev, the 737-200 with the Pratt & Whitney J88D engines on, and
Very
Alaska,
noisy.
Alaska actually used the combi version, which was the half and half, the passenger and half passenger, half cargo that Boeing made. I think it was a QC, quick change, that they called that, the combi version. Wow. So yeah.
But I actually flew on Alaska for the first time last year when I went to our global sales meeting in Portland. So I flew from Seattle to Portland and back, which I think I'm right in saying was 737-800. Very very busy services, and they were flying. Oh gosh, probably eight flights a day, just between Seattle and Portland, I think. So yeah, amazing.
I've heard good things about Alaska.
Yes.
Yeah. So moving on to the next story then, and Nev, I think we should all go and start buying something here.
Oh yes, on the headforpoints.com website, and now from Waterside, it's the sale of the century. Well, over the course of the last few months, lots of airlines have been selling off their excess stock of amenity kits, snacks, and even entire stocked bar carts. British Airways is selling a number of items from the first class service, including a range of bedding and crockery. In the press release, it said, although the at-home experience is no match for the real thing, customers or collectors can pick up such items as William Edwards plates, soup bowls, saucers, and even a butter dish for reasonable prices, allowing them to create an authentic first-class dining experience at home. Bread baskets, hot towels, which obviously arrive cold, hot towel plates, champagne flutes, coasters, and the Club World casserole dish are also available, as will be the first-class slippers and day blanket. All of the crockery and bedding is brand new. just so that you know, it's not been used at all. But given none of the items that listed are perishable, you'd think that BA would be happy to hold on to them rather than to sell them. But it would not be the first time that BA has sold off excess stock. Staff sales are a semi-regular occurrence at the HQ. COVID-19 may just have pushed this online. Well, there are a few reasons why BA might have chosen to liquidate its stock. I mean, they think they can raise some cash from it, obviously. The retirement of the 747 fleet and the significant reduction in available first-class seats means that BA now has an abundance of crockery and bedding, more than it can realistically make use of in the coming years. Maybe the lack of flying in the past months means that the breakages have significantly reduced, leaving BA with a mountain of items, or maybe it plans to introduce a new service in the near future. Who knows? But in addition to the family China, British Airways is also selling a range of general items where you can buy such stuff as aircraft catering boxes or a waste top-loader trolley for £150. Notably absent, however, are amenity kits or first-class pyjamas. Well, the bargain of the day, where you could get a set of 6 larger dinner plates for £5. However, it turned out this was a BA IT error. Has that ever happened before?
No.
And should have read £50.
Right.
And my colleague and friend Andy from the A320 podcast went onto the site as quickly as he could to try and buy some stuff, and all the good stuff had gone by the time he got to it. So I suspect that
Now, actually, interestingly enough, there, people who watch the YouTube feed will know that I actually played a little bit of music under there, because obviously the headline featured a certain sort of TV program that was made very famous, which I'm just treating to you now. Live from Norwich.
It's the quiz of the week.
And the reason why I'm playing this is because when I was looking at it, when we were having our little chat earlier in the show, I was watching the video. Now, everybody watched this, so I didn't realise this, but I think, if I'm correct, Carlos's favourite aircraft is in this. There you go, look. Is that a TriStar? No?
Beautiful.
No? Okay, just me.
Best thing ever, that is.
Fair enough. There we go. So, as you say, yeah. What would the chat room actually quite like to buy? I mean, if they were selling off the family silver, as we said in our opening there, I mean, what would it be that you would like to buy if they were sort of flogging bits and pieces off? It's what was Andy trying to go for? Do you know? Just
he wasn't. Yeah, I think anything is what.
Right. Okay. Not fussy.
I don't know whether he was thinking of reselling it, for example, or whether he wanted it.
Okay.
But there wasn't much left by the time he got to it, apparently.
No, I can imagine. I mean, genuinely, realistically, when you think of all the overheads and stuff that all of the airlines have at the moment, obviously with what's going on here, I mean, genuinely, realistically, I mean, how much money will this have raised? I mean, and presumably, if the aircraft go back in the air, I mean, you know, they've now got to buy a whole load of new kit.
Yeah, the thing is that I don't think it's necessarily about the money.
Right.
Maybe to do with, well, just getting the profile up again, perhaps, of the airline, but also there may be a refresh going on with some new stuff coming for next year. Who knows what the real story was? But
yeah, it was.
Actually, to be fair, in my kitchen drawer downstairs, I have got some British Caledonian teaspoons.
Oh.
Most people know who British Caledonian is.
Racon is saying, PR basically is what they're saying. It's basically, which is what I think they're saying, isn't it? Well, you know, there we go. Well, good luck to them. I mean, hopefully it raised them a couple of quid as well, isn't it? They might be able to keep on another member of cabin crew as a result. Yeah. Who knows?
So moving to the next story, and this one comes to us from edition.cnn.com. And it's good news if you're planning to lay over in Dubai, because Emirates offers a free hotel stay with your Dubai layover. Just makes a point, actually, before I read this story, that this is not a new service, just a resumption of one that it stopped as a due to COVID. But the story goes, so a little piece of good news is that if you're stopping over in Dubai for more than 10 hours, Emirates are going to throw in a free hotel stay. The United Arab Emirates flag carrier is resuming its Dubai Connect service on December the 1st this year, making travel a little easier for people navigating flight schedules altered by the coronavirus pandemic. Take a drink. So, to book the service, you need to be a transit passenger travelling on 2 Emirates flights using the best available connection for your chosen journey. So no cheating by booking a flight with a longer layover. If your layover is between 10 and 24 hours, you could qualify for a complimentary night at a 4 or 5-star hotel, plus airport ground transfers, meals at the hotel as well, and assistance with your UAE visa on arrival if required. You can expect to stay at the 4-star Copthorne Hotel, Dubai, or the 5-star Le Méridien Dubai Hotel and Conference Centre. Oh, why do I recognise that name? I think I've stayed in there with Gemma.
Oh,
But the airline, yeah, we have Le Méridien. Yeah, that was about 4 years ago we stayed there. But the airline must also put passengers. It's a very nice hotel as well. Put passengers up at alternative accommodation. The service is open to all passengers, no matter the travel class, unless they're travelling to a destination which requires PCR tests for COVID-19 on arrival. In that case, business and first passengers might get a stay at the Dubai International Hotel at Dubai Airport, depending on availability and given access to Emirates Dubai Connect Airport Lounge. The lounge has facilities for eating, drinking, unwinding, and economy passengers on longer stopovers will also get the chance to hang out there as well. Blimey, that's really kind. Earlier this year, Emirates became the first airline to offer cover to customers' medical expenses and quarantine costs should they contract COVID-19 during their trip. So that's actually that's quite a nice little treat, I suppose, if you were going to lay over for more than 10 hours, to be able to have the hotel stay included on there.
But did I hear you right there? You saying that actually this isn't the first time that's happened. It's just a resumption of a scheme that was already in place.
Resumption of a scheme. Yeah, it is of a scheme that is already in place. There are some T's and C's that go with this,
right,
obviously, which I'm sure we'll put in the show notes for anyone who is thinking of travelling to Dubai.
There's some interesting, it's sorry, John is just saying in our ears there. Sorry for that. We're basically
to book a Dubai Connect service. The connecting flight on your itinerary must be the best available connection.
Right.
It means that the stopover time in Dubai between your flights must underline be the shortest one available.
I mean, I kind of assumed that this was actually, again, it was one of these sort of PR exercises where it was encouraging people to come into Dubai and, encourage you to have a layover, to maybe spend a bit of time in Dubai. But if it is literally just a shortest out again, you literally have a shower and then out you go again, then I don't know, it seems like a bit of a waste opportunity, perhaps. I don't know.
And it was that hotel.
It was that hotel.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Well done. Lovely. So nice then.
There it is, a very nice hotel.
Yeah. Okay.
So moving on to the next story then, and Nev, this one is all for you about comfy seats.
On the independent.co.uk website. This is an interesting one. Lufthansa is trialling sleeper seats in economy. And they're going to be doing this, they're going to roll this out across a number of international routes. The new seating concept, named Sleepers Row, is being tested on long-haul flights between Frankfurt and Sao Paulo between 18th November until an as yet unconfirmed date in mid-December. Essentially, passengers already flying on the route are given the option of upgrading their economy experience by booking an entire row of 3 or 4 seats for themselves, either at the check-in or at the gate. Available on flights LH506 and LH507 only. The upgrades will cost €220 or US dollars, $260 one way, with payment made by credit card. The seats will be for their private use for the duration of the flight. And because it depends on how busy the flight is, no advanced reservation is possible. As part of the service, the passenger will receive a soft topper mattress, cushion and blanket. They'll also receive priority boarding, which means they can board the plane with business class passengers and settle into their row ahead of other economy passengers. The airline said that depending on customer feedback, they'll be looking at rolling out the concept across more intercontinental destinations on the Lufthansa Group network. Well, Lufthansa is in fact far from the only airline offering a lie flat option in economy. Air New Zealand was the first to offer it, launching the concept back in 2010. The economy Sky Couch allowed an entire row of seats to be transformed into a couch that could be shared with another adult or even a young family. It has since been copied by a number of different airlines around the world, including Air France's budget subsidiary June and Thomas Cook before their collapse. Well, interesting, isn't it? And of course, with all this social distancing business going on, all the flights I've been on during this time, everyone's been boarding from the rear of the aircraft. So I don't know how that's going to work in this situation here, but who knows? It's a bit of a halfway house, isn't it, between economy and premium economy?
Well, I suppose it means they can pay a little. I suppose they could generate a little tiny bit more revenue for seats that were going to be laying around empty anyway. I guess. I suppose that's
if that's right. I mean, if they know they're going to have a low load factor on that sector, then yes, they will probably try to do that. So yeah, interesting. We shall see.
Indeed, yeah. It looks
would you
quite
be up?
comfortable,
Would you be
actually.
up for this, actually, Matt? Because obviously, you've always said that you kind of hate the whole economy kind of seat. You'd always love to fly business class if you could everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if this was offered to you at a good price and you could have this for yourself.
I mean,
Would this-
there is still the issue in the fact that because I am basically 6 foot tall, that I still don't think I'd be able to lie completely over a whole row of seats, if you see what I mean.
Do you think?
Because I think, won't my legs still stick out at the end? I mean, 4 seats I'd be all right. I
Four
think.
seats, yeah.
But 3 seats, I mean, so my feet would essentially end up being in the aisle, which is not going to be tolerated, obviously, because of people getting tripped up and all that kind of thing. But I mean, on the rare flights,
it doesn't look that comfortable to me.
I mean, it looks more comfortable than like having one seat to yourself. And some of the best flights that I've ever had actually with Ryanair have been where there's like where I've been lucky and the middle seat hasn't, or there was somebody next to me like initially, but when we took off, the person who I sat next to would jump over a seat, and we ended up just both using the middle seat as like a table, to put stuff and things like that. And those have been some of my most comfortable flights, is where you felt like you've got a bit more space, because you can take the armrest up, for example, on your near side and just sort of relax a bit more, feel a bit more comfortable.
Would you rather have the better recline, Matt? Have a more of a reclined seat with a footrest that comes?
I mean, yeah,
up
the
at
short
bottom?
answer is yes, but I mean, you're not going to get that, are you? Because these are economy seats at the end of the day. And of course, the flights that we're talking about here, I think John was just saying in our ear that they're like 12 hours long, these particular flights. So it's not available on all routes, but I mean, if it's a good price, it's got to be more comfortable. And even if you could then I suppose you could almost sit side saddle as well, couldn't you, then, if you wanted to? So you could make yourself more comfortable by propping yourself up against the window and stuff like that. So I suppose it does give you more options.
Out of all the airline expressions I've ever heard, side saddle is not one that I would expect to have heard in relation to the airline.
You
passenger
know
ticket.
what I mean. You're just trying to get me into trouble. Honestly.
I'll tell you what, guys. Before we move on to the next part of the show, I'm just going to ask a quick question. Do you think, for all of us here, because we're all going to fly again at some point somewhere.
Speak for yourself.
Do you think when all this kind of, when the vaccines rolled out, we've all been vaccinated, blah blah blah, COVID's been somewhere, do you think that the airlines are going to be offering really mega deals on higher premium seats, business seats, to get people back?
Honestly, I think no.
airlines.
I think they'll need so much, because I personally feel that actually things are going to go the other way. I think there's going to be consumer demand when all this is over, and actually they'll almost be able to name their price within reason, because people Carlos, how much would you pay to get on an aeroplane and go to Malta right now?
Right, but consider we missed our trip this year.
Well, no, exactly. That's kind of my point. That's
to a certain point. I wouldn't go silly.
No, but I bet right now you would pay more than you would ordinarily be prepared to pay.
But a little bit more, not ridiculous amount. But I would, I would pay more to go. Now.
What about you, Nev? What are your thoughts here?
Well, I think that what's happened here, of course, just imagine the revenue that they have lost. The airlines have lost since the start of all this back in March of this year. It's absolutely phenomenal. And don't forget, on the long haul sectors, economy seats, whilst they are all very affordable for the likes of you and me and everybody else, they don't make any money for the airline. They only make the money in the business and first class section, and a little bit in the premium economy maybe. But of course, are businesses now going to review the way they do their flying? A little bit, possibly, but I still think there is a massive value in those face-to-face meetings, and I think we're all a little bit fed up of the virtual meetings at the moment. So
I am certainly.
Might be a bit of a rush for that, possibly. So we'll have to.
Yeah, every Friday night I have these Muppets on a video call. Every Friday.
And then Saturday night you've got to do it all.
And then Saturday night there's these two guys that are busy fighting with each other, making a load of row. Honestly, it's just like, ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so sorry, Pip's just saying in the chat room here, 3 seats doesn't work. Only 4 just does for 6-foot people. Did it last week on the way back from DFW, which is from Dallas, Fort Worth.
Dallas, yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one, as I say. But he says, using his words carefully here, this is where I'd still probably do it because of that ability to sort of, I'm going to say the word again, side saddle, just to excite Nev. But
actually, before we move on to the next segment, all I'm going to say on this subject is, if the seats were the same size in economy as they were back in the 80s and early 90s, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. But anyway,
no, indeed.
So moving on to the next part of the show, Nev, this one's in your hands.
Oh, yes, right. Well, you may have, if you've been listening for the last couple of weeks, you'll have seen the interview that we did with Neil Cloughley of Faradair. So in the final part of this interview, Neil speaks with Carlos about the importance of pushing the boundaries of aircraft design and how new technology has enabled Neil's team to think outside of the box when it comes to designing the new BIHA aircraft.
If you're going to push the boundaries, if we're going to do things new, let's push the boundaries. What's interesting is with CFD, with computational fluid dynamics, you can now do stuff that would have taken you 2 years to do in a wind tunnel in a very short process. So if we now have got the capability to look at things that people had ignored previously because, it's too draggy, it's too that, actually think about the mission profile of what you want to do. And is it capable of doing that? And what we wanted was incredibly short takeoff and landing. So when we talk STOL, we're talking 300 meters. When we're talking payload, we're talking 5 tons. So we take the footprint of the Chinook and we say we want to lift more than the Chinook, we want to be going further than the Chinook, we want to be quieter than the Chinook, we want to be cheaper to buy than the Chinook, and we want to be cheaper to operate and maintain than the Chinook. If we can do that, granted we cannot land on the side of a mountain, that's the one bit we can't do, but at 300 meters we can land on the dirt road going up to it. So if that's what we do, then great. We have managed to cure 95% of the mission criteria, and so if we could supply 32 of our aircraft for the cost of 3 Chinooks, now we're starting to get into economics that make a ton of sense, especially for our new aircraft carriers, where this could be the first fixed-wing aircraft onto the carrier of any meaningful size, other than the F-35B, that doesn't require cats and traps. So from a logistics perspective, the ability to move stuff to and from your carrier in deep water, then having an asset that can do that, rather than potentially having to go and spend a lawful lot of money on tilt rotor type technology, then this is something that is something that we're going after. So it's a whole range and spectrum.
Do you think going forward with all the different various uses of the aircraft that you're planning, do you think as well you could possibly have bolt-ons, so you could have a search and rescue version.
Oh, absolutely.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's part and parcel of what we're doing. I'll give you one example. We currently have $30 million helicopters carrying a giant inflatable bag above our aircraft carrier. It's called the Crow's Nest. It was a system on the Sea King, and that $30 million Merlin 101 asset is a submarine hunter-killer. That is what it's best at. It's good at going and rescuing pilots and things that have dropped in the drink. We should not be using that asset to hold a radar and holding a defense system. So the fact that you've got an aircraft that can take off and land, go much further, and go north, south, east and west with 4 aircraft, put your dome of protection beyond the horizon, outside of any incoming threat zone, to give your F-35's chance to intercept, but do that autonomously. Do it pilotlessly. The aircraft will be fully unmanned capable.
As you said, that's going to be a part of the aircraft's design.
Yeah.
Just explain a bit about how that's going to work.
Well, again, logically, if you're doing anything from a clean sheet perspective, the ability to cover several roles makes a ton of sense. We know that the military around the world have got what's called a tooth-to-tail ratio problem, where we have a limited number of assets with an ever-growing number of jobs and responsibilities to do. So, for example, drug interdiction work off the coast of a place like Belize. Is it sensible for us to have a frigate with a Wildcat helicopter doing drug interdiction work, when actually we need that frigate in the Baltic, in the Med, in the Pacific, in the Channel, in the North Sea, wherever we really do need that asset? That's what we should be doing. So if we can now start to use more cost-effective assets to go and do what are fairly mundane tasks, that doesn't need to be piloted. A pilot is a very skilled, expensive asset. And if it's a mundane task that can be done autonomously and unmanned, why wouldn't you do it? Our history and background comes from the military UAV business, so it was logical we'd always have an unmanned variant, but we have an unmanned variant that can carry an awful lot of payload. So there's a whole host of roles: search and rescue, airborne early warning, patrol, pilot recovery, all sorts. There's lots of things we're looking at. Fire tanking, the wildfire fighting and things. It's an exciting period. We've just basically got the core asset. And I think the last core asset we had in our armed forces in the UK was the Gazelle, probably. Yeah. RAF, Army, Navy operating. Whereas what we're saying here is there is a single point asset where the cost of engineering, the training of the engineering teams to look after them, the components are all single point origin. How they then use it, how the SF guys will use it differently to how the Navy use it, differently how the RAF, how the Army use it, that's down to them. They can have a kit out to the way that they need it to operate, which is super important for the Joint Chiefs. They've got to have that ability to bespoke an asset to what they need, but we also need that cost economics benefit of having all the core components the same under the main asset. So yeah, that's part and parcel of what we're doing.
So looking forward to kind of the day when you've released it, it's into commercial service. Where do you see the design itself, or possibly going in the future? Larger aircraft?
There's the billion-dollar question. I got asked this not so long ago by somebody saying, are you going to do a bigger version, 60-seat, 70-seat? Well, I mean, firstly, Part 25 is an incredibly difficult class to go into. You are talking billions and billions to do Part 25 aircraft. For this technology, we don't think that makes any sense right now. Let's start smaller, let's prove it, let's go through and get this rolling. So that was off the cards, first and foremost. Secondly, once you start going to those bigger assets, what you're actually describing is a different mission profile, which means you do need to go higher, you do need to go faster, in which case you wouldn't necessarily use the triple box wing, because that's not what it's designed for. So if we were to do a different aircraft for a bigger role or a faster role or something like that, it won't look like the Bihar, it will look like something else. Do we have something in mind? Yes, we do. In the fullness of time, that may come. But let's get the Bihar up and going first.
So this is going to be a global player. It'll be available in all countries across the globe. But one of the most important things I think you've said to us is the fact that you're bringing this, producing this, manufacturing this in the UK, because as we know, we've lost pretty much everything that we used to produce in the UK is produced overseas now. So that, to you, I think you say, is a very important part of this whole
It's massive.
Whole product.
I mean, it's part of the whole driver of what we're doing. I don't know what happened to our aerospace industry. At what point did we agree that we would be happy with a percentage of? The day that we agreed to have a percentage of, we gave up our entire history and heritage. We are amongst the very best in the world at producing aerospace technology and aircraft. The history is all around us. I mean, some of the greatest aircraft of all time are sitting surrounding us here, many of which British designed and built. So why can't we do that again? Well, of course we can. We've seen Boris Johnson, the new Prime Minister, is talking about his Jet Zero Council and his views for net zero flight for the future, which we fully endorse and support. And more importantly, we're at a time where a lot of the bigger companies are having to lay staff off. There is a huge pool of talent out there that we really want to employ. We want to get out there and give these engineers jobs, the security over the next 5 years of working on a brand new aircraft type and getting it out there and flying the flag. I had the great honour and privilege of representing the UK last year in Oslo as part of a UK trade and industry trade delegation visit to the Norwegian government. And for me, it's huge, the fact that we can fly the flag and say, it's a British aircraft, British designed and built. We're going to employ new technology standards in how we build it. So again, if you're building a sustainable aircraft, there's no point building it with unsustainable methods. So what we're going to be doing is using sustainable methods to actually build the aircraft as well. Brand new factory 4.0 type technology to really make the process as streamlined as possible, but to create those jobs, create that security in the supply chain for something that is homegrown. And yeah, we have an announcement coming up in the not too distant future, which I think might surprise a few people. So yeah, exciting days.
Your father, Neil, must be incredibly proud of what you've achieved.
He's told me that, and it's an emotional one because we won, as I mentioned briefly before, we won an innovation award in 2016, and to have him next to me on the stand, it was more about him. He was light years ahead of the competition. We were messing around with a dog of a UAV called the Phoenix in the early 90s. It was useless, and we haven't learnt many of our lessons and a lot of that time since. So basically, he was so far ahead of the game, and I think that basically what we've recognised on that particular awards night was he was right. Everything he was working on was absolutely spot on and was correct. Just as we found out that Mitchell was right with the Spitfire in 34. Just as we found out that actually that TSR-2 behind us would have been one of the world's most advanced aircraft in the world. We discovered that Barnes-Wallis wasn't barking mad with the idea of bouncing a bomb across water. We have got the natural pioneers and the innovators in this country, but what we've always failed to do is to properly back them and support them. So a lot of it was taking up his mantle. The fact that we've managed to survive 6 years, and somebody said something to me, or not to me, but it was on social media, and I think it was one of the guys from Shark Tank. It was something along the lines of, if you look for the companies that not only survive this pandemic, but actually show growth in a pandemic, that is a company that you definitely need to be watching and be a part of. And that was so important for me. I thought we have got to really take this opportunity to grow the business hard now. We've got to really get the backing in and show that we've got the demand. The fact that COVID has, and we're socially distanced, so the fact that we're not in masks is because we are socially distanced in a very big open airflow environment. And as soon as we finish filming, we'll be fully masked up as we walk around. But is the fact that if you look at how we go forward and the things that we do, yeah, is he proud? Is he pleased with what we've been able to do? I think so. But for me personally, he's still alive. He's on our advisory board. And the day this aircraft takes off for the first time from here at Duxford, it's where we'll do the prototype flight, that's going to be an emotional day. And I want him stood right next to me, which is why it is oh so important of why we need to get the funds to get this thing going, because he's 75, 76, he won't like me saying that now, but he's getting on in a few years, and you just don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what happens. And for me, it will be a huge day to do that, and it will be a very drunken evening thereafter, I can tell you that as well. So those who are going to be involved in and around, and you guys will be part of it, you come down and see it and be a part of that whole process. Yeah, I apologise now for my behaviour later in the evening, because I won't make any sense.
But there'll be no flying involved.
But there'll be no flying involved at that point. So, but no, it is a family legacy mission here that we're doing. The aircraft will take care of itself. I mean, some of the numbers that we're doing on this thing, to give you an idea, 16 degrees angle of attack, and at 40 knots it's still lifting.
And
for an
because of that,
aircraft of
because of that wing design.
Because of the wing design.
Yeah.
It does the job it's designed to do. And of course, when it stops lifting on the top wing and it's no longer lifting on the middle and we've still got some in the bottom wing, it pushes its nose over and it doesn't stall. So these are all design features of this aircraft that are designed for safety redundancy, for capability for the job it has to do, and it'll do the job it'll do exactly what it says on the tin. Of that I have no doubt. We've just got to get there.
So we're going to start to wrap up, but just for the benefit of everyone watching, where can the listeners find out more about this amazing aircraft?
Right, well, obviously, first port of call is the website, so www.faradair, Faradair.com. That's where we put out the majority of our latest news. I'm on LinkedIn, and we're on social media, on Twitter and things like that. So we'll be keeping the announcements out there. People are welcome to sign up to our newsletter subscriber, which we haven't even got it launched yet. This is part of the new feature we've got on the website, so apologies for the delay on this. We are getting to it. But yeah, it's really, if they want to reach out to us, contact us via the website. If there are angel investors, if there are people with corporations that want to become part and involved in the project, want to fly the flag, want to get behind a British aircraft manufacturing project, get in touch with us. We'd love to have the conversation with you.
Well, although we can't support you financially, Neil, I mean, obviously we'll support you as much as we can with the show, and obviously follow the progress with the beer and that on there. And it'd be great to see, obviously, like you say, it would be great to see the day when it's out there at Duxford, where we are here now, on that tarmac, ready to take off.
At the end of the day, most people will say it's the touchy-feely element. It's the bit that once you can see it, smell it, touch it, you understand much more. We have got to get to that point as quickly as possible. We have seen companies in Germany get back with 300 million and be 500 staff, and they came 2-3 years after us. In America, similar story. We have got to get ourselves into a position where we compete internationally. A lot of that comes down to financing, and if we can get that sorted out, we'll get this aircraft on the ramp, we'll get her flying, and it will be amongst, I'm sure, other aircraft as well, but we'll be there flying the flag, and a British aircraft. Yeah, they're exciting days right now. It really is good.
We've got one last question for you, Neil, and it's a kind of put you on the spot question.
Oh, I like these.
But we ask everyone we interview on the show, we ask the same question. And obviously with your background, it's probably, I have a rough idea what it could be. But given the opportunity or chance to say, go out here now on this airfield and fly any aircraft, be it commercial,
right,
GA, military, anything, retired, still flying in service, and you could go out there now, jump in, what would that be?
Ooh. Too difficult. You're going to have to break it down.
You can have two.
Okay. If it's piston engine aircraft, apparently I don't fit into a Spitfire on the two-seat Spitfire. At 6'4", apparently it's 6'2" limit. Haven't heard that confirmed. If that's the case, got to be the P-51 Mustang. P-51D from that. So that's a definite. But if it's pointy and fast, give me a seat in the back of an SR-71. If I could sit in an SR-71 and go and see the curvature of the Earth. If anybody's watched that video of Major Gibson, I think it is, where he talks about the air traffic control intercept with the guy who's in the F-15 or something like that, and there's a guy in a Bonanza and heat pipe. That's a great video, and I had the great pleasure. There are certain things in my background and growing up that I've had the great privilege to be inspired by. One of my first jobs was in Colnbrook, so when Concorde took off, the blue flames would kick off literally just above the door as it went off New York. Huge, big inspirational moment. I saw the SR-71 at Mildenhall when it did its bubble bounce. Came in, flat chat, the bubble formed around it, and it just backed off at the last second, so it didn't punch through the sound barrier. That was the meanest looking thing I've ever seen coming in at speed. It was fabulous. I went to STS-86. I was at the nighttime launch of Atlantis for the mission that went to get Michael Foale at Kennedy. So I was 7 miles away from the pad, round the lagoons. Breathtaking experience at nighttime. Wow. If you've never had the chance to go and see a nighttime rocket launch, I highly encourage it. It was the most electric thing I've ever experienced, because not only have you got Challenger in the back of your mind, you're hearing the countdown, it's all wired on the PA system, but at night, when the thing clears the tower and everybody's counting down, and 0, and liftoff, and you hear nothing. And then it clears the tower, and there is a light break, like it's midday. I mean, it's bright yellow all around you, and like, what on earth? And this thing's going off, and 13 seconds later, you get that first wave. And it was like Roman candle, stroke thunderous engines, stroke chestnuts in a fire, crackling, spitting, banging, your rib cage is shaking, the ground is shaking. This thing's going off. 3 minutes later, he's off over the eastern seaboard, and he's doing 16,000 plus miles an hour. And you look at that and you just go, wow. So that's an inspirational moment. You think, this is incredible. But in recent times for me, 2 of the most important things that have happened most recently were, one, Felix Baumgartner jumped from space. The whole world was watching that certifiable lunatic, fair play to the guy, jumping from space and setting that record. That was amazing. But Elon Musk. Now, I use Elon as a great motivating factor because 18 odd years ago, he was talking to people who said, no, you can't do this. This isn't your game. You've got no experience doing this. You've never done this before. This is not your bag. He's now flying missions for those same people. He proved them wrong. In fact, the car that is in space at the moment that was sent out, I think I've test driven. So I drove the Tesla prototype in Burlingame in about, I think it was 08 or something like that. I think that's the one he's fired in space. But anyway, going to the point, that double rocket landing of reusable rockets. In our lifetimes, I think that's one of the aviation moments of our lifetimes. To see that happen, which was always science fiction, it showed that not only are new technologies and new methods and new ways of doing things possible, but for me, I listen to the factory. If you listen to his workers on that live feed, they go absolutely bananas. If we can build a team that is that enthusiastic about the BIHA, and we've got supporters and guys out there who really want to help us and get this thing going forward, let's build that atmosphere. Let's build something that we can get really behind. And yeah, that's so SR-71, P-51, and ours. Of course, I've got to add our aircraft in there.
Well, Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. I want to thank you on behalf of all the team for taking a huge chunk out of your day today to speak to us today. It's been an absolute pleasure being here, and you know, we want to wish you all the absolute very best for the future with the BIHA, and we can't wait to see this aircraft flying.
I look forward to having as many people here as possible to come and watch it fly for the first time. So thank you ever so much, and yeah, we'll keep you posted.
Yep, and thanks for coming on the show, and we hope to see you again soon.
Be a pleasure.
Take care.
Thanks a lot.
If you want to take your knowledge to the next level, sign up for a subscription at the A320 Lounge. Our online video courses combine whiteboard-style lessons with full failure demonstrations shot in 4K in state-of-the-art simulators using a professional production team. Go into your next simulator session with confidence, having seen failures run in real time and with the background knowledge to answer any questions from your instructor. To get more information and to sign up, visit a320lounge.com.
Oh, I mean, I'm sad that series is over, actually, because it's been absolutely fascinating. It really has. And,
yeah, Neil's enthusiasm is very infectious, isn't it? And
it is.
Gosh, I wish them all the very best with this project.
Absolutely.
I cannot wait to see it.
It's literally groundbreaking, isn't it? I mean, you know, this is going to be one heck of an achievement. You know, and they're talking about getting it in the air not that far away, are they?
2024.
2024, all being well, and then in full production 2026. So yeah, let's just keep our fingers crossed that all goes well. He's got all the right ingredients, but as always, funding is everything for these.
Indeed,
and he's incredibly enthusiastic as well. Neil
absolutely,
is very enthusiastic about the whole project,
Indeed.
So, which is important. But a big welcome to everyone who's joined us from Airshow World. We've got a few people in the chat room
Hello,
who've joined us from Airshow World. Hello to you all. We've got
DJ Wilf as well.
Yeah, DJ
Mile
Wilf.
High.
Ooh, GB's Model Zone. Hello to you. Miles High. Yeah, Phoebe Stern. Yeah, hello to you all. Welcome to the
family.
Show. Welcome to the family. Yes. Oh, and Ryanair 001.
Oh my.
Hello to you.
Oh, I wonder if that is him. Do you think that'll be O'Leary himself? Do you reckon he's just popped in?
No, he's coming around yours for Sunday lunch, Matt.
Is he? Oh, good, lovely.
yeah.
Right. I mean, show him about the restrictions, you know. And
Well,
that
it is your
sort of thing.
birthday.
Well,
Anyway,
will
moving
you
on.
Shut up about that. I told you I'm going to be 43 for another year. I've decided.
I know it's Matt's birthday Sunday.
Stop
Anyway,
it, move.
moving on with the next part of the show. If everyone's ready, we're going to do some military news.
Are we? Okay. All right then. Lovely. Here we go.
So the first story comes to us from the aviationist.com. And, you know, one of the things I love about our producer, John, is the fact that he does do such great things with our show notes and puts a pronunciation guide in. So I'll try and
That only works
get
if
this
you
right
read it, though, Carlos.
as best I can. So the headline on the story then, the Japan Air Self-Defense Force retires its last F-4EJ Phantom fighter after 48 years of service. So the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, or JASDF, celebrated the retirement of the F-4EJ Kai Phantom II after 48 years of service on November the 20th this year at the Haikuri Air Base. The event saw the participation of the current and former former Phantom Squadron commanders, JASDF generals and base personnel who remembered the achievements of the F-4 and discussed the future after its retirement. After the ceremony, 3 Phantoms performed a last flight over the airbase, which must have been really good. The last squadron flying the Phantom, the 301 Hikotai Samurai or Tactical Air Squadron, prepared 2 specially coloured aircraft for the F-4EJ farewell. The first one, 37-0315, shows yellow and black bands on the upper fuselage, wings and external fuel tanks, and a shark mouth and the writing "Go for it, 301 Squadron" on the exterior of the air intakes, and the frog, the Japanese common toad found on the Mount Scuba near Hakuri. The unit's insignia on the tail, the second one, 07-8436, is a farewell special colour with blue cyan, white and black bands on the upper fuselage, wings and external fuel tanks, and shark mouth. The writings "Phantom Forever" on the exterior of the air intakes and "Thank You Phantom 2" on the upper surface of the wings, and "Phantom Spook" on the tail. Before becoming the last squadron to fly the Samurai Phantom, the 301 Hikotai was the squadron that introduced the F-4EJ into the Japan Air Self-Defense Force in 1972. Oh, me and you, Matt, weren't about then. 301 Hikotai is now set to move to Misawa Air Base to become the second F-35A unit. The F-4EJ Phantom were initially very limited in their air-to-air capabilities and without air-to-air refueling and air-to-ground capabilities, being limited to carry the built-in M61 cannon and AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles for self-defense only. In 1982, work started for a service life extension program, which resulted in the F-4EJ's K. The upgrade notably retrofitted the missing air-to-air refueling and air-to-ground ship capability, as well as was complete air-to-air capability. Earlier this year, the Japan Air Self-Defense Force retired the RF-4E and RF-4EJ, operated by the 501 Hikotai, or Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron, at the Hakari Air Base. We'll get there some way. Which are among the world's most famous because of their trademark shark mouth on the unit's woodpecker emblem on the tail and European, Vietnam and blue offshore camouflage schemes. If you want to know more about that, check out the episode 309, military story number 3 of the show, a great episode with Captain Nick and Al, which was also the last show we had with anyone on other than Matt in the studio. During the last month of the 301 Hikotai flying the Phantom, the base also hosted some F-2 Vipers Zeros to support the squadron. And also there's a link that we'll put in the show notes as well for all this. So if you want to take yourselves over to our show notes, which are available on the various download platforms and on our website, all the links will be in there for you to have a look at all the pictures. But I think Matt's been playing out some rather fetching pictures whilst I've been reading that story.
Yeah, I'm good like that, you know. Yeah, I read the show notes and everything. I'm eyes like well posh, man.
You are very good. You are very good, Matt.
I'm very obedient. Anyway, Nev, you've got a bit of a sad story next.
Yes, and but of course we've got some pronunciation challenges with this.
Oh, have you? Oh, that's nice. How is your Italian, just out of interest?
Well, yes, it's not very good.
Bonjour, Nev. Bonjour.
Lovely. That's all nations offended. Good. Lovely.
Well, yeah, I'll still having a word with Armando after this, I must say. But this is from the aviationist.com website. Farewell, Huey. The 5th Army Aviation Regiment is the first unit to phase out its AB-205 Huey helicopters after completing the transition to the NH-90. The 5th Army Aviation Regiment of the Italian Army handed off its AB-205 Huey helicopters on November the 17th, just gone, after completing the transition to the NH-90. The AB-205, officially designated as UH-205A Combat Support Helicopter ESC-3, is the Italian license-built version of the Bell 205 UH-1D Huey that has been in service since 1966, assigned to the 27th Group Mercurio. The 5th Army Aviation Regiment Regal, named after the homonymous star of the Orion constellation, and all Italian Army aviation units are traditionally named after stars and constellations, is one of the 2 aviation regiments of the Airmobile Brigade Friuli, and the other being the 7th Army Aviation Regiment Vega. The units celebrated the event with the last flight of 3 UH-205As from Cassara della Delisa airfield, escorted by an AH-129D Mangusta attack helicopter, and visited Rivalto AB, Campo Formido, Managgio, Aviano AB and La Comina, the airfields where the Huey operated in the Friuli Venezia Giulia region before heading to Viterbo, home of the Army Aviation Training Centre. The AB-205 flew in northeastern Italy for 51 years, being delivered for the first time in Cassara in 1969. Soon after its delivery, the AB-205 Huey became instrumental to disaster relief operations after the Friuli earthquake in 1976, flying more than 1,000 rescue and transport missions in support of the population. Since 1982, the helicopter took part in many operations abroad, namely in Lebanon, Namibia, Somalia, the former Yugoslavia, Kosovo and Afghanistan. The Huey was upgraded in 2010 for a better protection whilst operating in Afghanistan, becoming UH-205A mission equipment package. Amongst the systems that were added during the upgrade, a Doppler global navigation system, new radios, ballistic protection and armoured seats, an infrared signature suppressor for the engine exhaust, radar, laser and missile warning systems, and chaff flare dispensers. The UH-105A will now continue to serve in other countries across, other units across the country until its retirement, which has not yet been set. The Airmobile Brigade has fully transitioned to the UH-90A, but it should be joined soon by the new UH-169B, as the AW-169 light utility helicopter has been officially designated. As we said earlier this year, the Aviationist, the UH-169B will replace the A109, AB-205, AB-206, AB-212 and AB-412, which currently perform in the combat support role for the Italian Army. How I got through that story, I shall never know.
I feel a sternly worded email coming in. I don't know.
But it's interesting to note how old this helicopter is.
I know. Frightening, isn't it? Almost
more than 50 years it's been going. Incredible.
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? How I mean, some things like show their age, don't they? You know, you mean some things you look at and you think, yeah, that's 50 years. I mean, cars, for example. I mean, you look at a car from 50 years ago and you think, blimey, that there's been some real innovations there. But I mean, you look at that aircraft, it really doesn't shout at you. I mean, I guess if you were sat in the cockpit, you might think, oh yeah, there's been it needs a bit of an upgrade, but it still looks like a helicopter, even though it's 50 years old. I know that sounds a really strange thing to say.
Built to last, though, Matt. I think
built to last, yeah.
Built
ain't that
to last, and they took a hell of a pounding.
Yeah, I bet.
During the war as well, when these were used. So.
Indeed. Okay, on to the next story, and this is with Flight Global, and the headline is How the World's Air Forces Came to the Rescue in a Very Troubled 2020. Well, is there something going on in 2020? I hadn't noticed. Anyway, military personnel are trained to always expect the unexpected, but even the sharpest-minded defence planners could not have foreseen the swift pace and staggering impact of the coronavirus pandemic during 2020. I wish I'd sort of read this. I feel like I should have a beer every time I say that word at the moment. But rather than having normal day-to-day activities or combat commitments at the front of their minds, the world's air forces, armies and navies have had to rapidly react and adapt to the health crisis as it swiftly swept the globe after emerging in China's Wuhan province. The US Air Force, the USAF, called on assets including the Lockheed C-5M, the Boeing C-17 and Lockheed Martin C-130 to perform such work, while European air forces deployed Airbus Defence and Space, the A330 multi-role tanker transports and the A400M airlifters. Along with commercial airliners, these assets were also used to repatriate nationals stranded overseas by snap lockdowns and to conduct medical evacuation tasks. With every part of the globe affected, most militaries also made full use of their combat helicopter fleets to transfer vital equipment to help move critically ill patients to hospital. While the commercial air travel sector all but closed down as the effects of the COVID-19 spread, Air Force mobility assets have rarely been in greater demand. Another example of Air Forces responding to crises was the reaction to a devastating explosion in the Lebanese capital Beirut on the 4th of August. Multiple nations conducted relief flights, among them Brazil, which delivered supplies using its Air Force's new Embraer KC-390 transport. Underscoring the importance of such assets, the Syrian Fleets database shows that the number of in-service transport aircraft increased by 36 over the 12-month period since our last snapshot, to a new total of 4,301, some 8% of the total fleet. Overall, the global active military inventory contracted by 327 aircraft during the same time to 53,563 as of the 30th of September. This represented an overall cut of 0.6%, up from 0.2% downsizing seen between 2019 and 2020. I mean, it's fair to say that the Air Forces in general, I think, it's weird times. I think that's the best way to describe it, isn't it? Very, very weird times. I mean, who'd have thought? I mean, I know... for example, commercial airliners obviously have always carried freight, but never to the level at which they've been doing of late. I mean, the whole industry is just in such turmoil at the moment, isn't it? Really.
Mind you, he's talking about the C-130s on this story.
Yes.
We've had quite a number of those go. Quite busy skies are above East Anglia where me and Matt live this week.
Yes,
there's been a lot of C-130 action.
Indeed. In fact, actually, Stu, I think, is in the chat room at the moment because he's done a few lives from Mildenhall, hasn't he? For that same sort of, there's what have they got at Mildenhall? Is it just it's the Osprey? They got some other bits and pieces there as well, haven't they?
They've got the KC-135s, the 4-engine tankers that were based on the 707s there.
Yeah.
They've also got the C-130J and the MC-130s have got there as well.
And you're saying it's obviously because you keep saying it's my birthday on Sunday, but apparently it's Stu's birthday next week as well. So there we go. Okay. There we go. So anyway, right, on to the last story, Carlos.
Yeah, this last one is from the aviationist.com, and of course a bit scary, this one, because it's involving the word nuclear. But an F-35A has dropped an inert, I will point out it's inert, B-61-12 nuclear bomb during a supersonic flight for the first time. So the test with the B-61-12 is also the first F-35A dual-capable aircraft test to be shown in an unclassified video, which I think Matt may well play out a little bit in a little while. Just a few months after the first videos, the F-35 testing the nuclear bomb in 2019 for the F-35A dual-capable aircraft program were released. The Sandia National Laboratories announced that the F-35 dropped for the first time an inert B-61-12 nuclear bomb from its internal bomb bay during a supersonic flight. According to the press release, the test took place on August the 25th, 2020, at about 10,500 feet above the Tanapa test range, with the inert bomb hitting the target area after about 42 seconds of flight. The test was the first performed by Sandia, the National Nuclear Security Administration, the Los Alamos National Laboratory, and the U.S. Air Force. Sandia oversees the design and engineering for the non-nuclear components of the United States nuclear stockpile, including the new B-61-12 and the integration of the complete weapon on the aircraft. The F-35 DCA, according to public information, should achieve the nuclear certification in January 2023, pretty much in line with earlier test reports that scheduled the completion of the integration works between 2020 and 2022. Around 480 bombs will reportedly be upgraded to the new configuration. As already explained in a previous article at The Aviationist, the B-61-12 represents the latest LEP, or Life Extension Program, upgrade to the B-61 line of nuclear weapons that has already been extensively tested with the F-15E Strike Eagles of the 422nd Test and Evaluation Squadron back in 2015. The Life Extension Program, or LEP, will replace the B-61-3, -4 and -7 and -10 mods, with the -12 that, along with the B-83, will become the only remaining gravity-delivered nukes in the inventory. The B-61-12 will be compatible with the B-2A, B-21, the F-15E and F-16C and D, F-16 MLU, F-35 and the PA-200 aircraft. The LEP increases the B-61's accuracy so much that it will have the same capability against hardened targets as the much more powerful weapon it's being replaced by. Here below, here in the story, as you've seen in the video there that Matt was playing, you can see after the bomb drop at the beginning of the video, you'll see around about 30 seconds into the video, the spin rocket motors firing to improve stability during the bomb's descent. And obviously Matt will put all the relevant links, as always, or John will as well, actually, our producer will put them in the relevant links in the show notes for the show, so you can watch that video again in case you missed it. So yeah,
absolutely.
Nuclear weapons. I didn't think we were having to have those things anymore.
No,
we're getting rid of those.
They're never going to go away, are they? In order for us not to require such things, everybody's going to all have to sit round a nice table and, have a bit of a chat. And let's be honest, we can't do that at the moment. And Zoom will keep breaking up, so it'll never, it'll never.
I swear, our new microwave downstairs has got a nuclear bleeding power station inside.
Right. Okay.
Honestly,
I don't know what to do with that information.
Well, it nukes everything we put in it.
It's a microwave. What were you expecting? Yeah. Anyway, that's where we bring the military segment to a close for this week. Now, what's up next, Carlos?
So up next then, for everyone who enjoys this segment, as I know my father does, we're going to switch to the next segment or part of the show, which is the Plain Truths, which this week is, it's all about which is a better pilot, military or civilian. And this is a question that was put to Captain Al and Matt from Tony S.
Hello and welcome to another Plain Truths, and this week we're going to be asking which pilot is better. Joining me, as always, to answer that highly controversial question is the legend that is Captain Al. Hi, Captain Al.
Good evening.
I'm absolutely dreading asking this question. This one has come in from Tony S, who is quite often in our chat room here, so I feel obliged to ask this question. And the tweet that I received yesterday afternoon...
You're really a bit nervous about this, aren't you?
Nervous is not the word. Terrified, I think, is probably the correct answer there. So I'm going to ask it and just sit back and grab the popcorn like Pip suggested in said thread, which is essentially, are pilots from a military background better?
Okay, so... You can take a deep breath and relax, because I don't see this as a controversial subject at all.
Right.
First of all, pilots are pilots, and aeroplanes are just the tools that we utilize to demonstrate our skills. Now, quite clearly, military pilots require a different skill set to civilian pilots, and there are also different roles in the military. So I'll just roll off a few. You've obviously got the fast jet fighter guys, then you've got the transport guys, and you've got those weird ones that fly those helicopter things.
Those things from Hogwarts, you mean? Yeah.
Yes. So let's have a look at some aspects of that. Now, first of all, I can't speak on authority on this subject because I've never been a military pilot. But what I can talk about is my experiences in dealing with ex-military pilots. So, quite clearly, if you are a fast jet pilot, you are used to operating at high speed with quite aggressive maneuvering tendencies, so lots of G pulling, and quite sort of combative by nature in how you operate the aeroplane. That's what it's designed for. It's designed to be thrown around the sky. Nobody in first class on an airliner will thank you for pulling 8G at 400 miles an hour in some sort of weird Top Gun maneuver. Okay, that just is not acceptable. It's not going to be tolerated. And equally, when defending, Queen and country, sat there, straight and level, having a cup of tea and eating your chocolate hobnob is not going to win you the war.
Right.
So very, very different skill sets. So let's have a look about how military pilots cope in the civilian world. So quite often, military pilots have difficulty in adapting. They have no problems with the flying aspects because that's common to us all. We all know, push the stick forward, cows get bigger, pull the stick back, cows get smaller. That's the same across all of it. One of the areas that quite often is an issue is the aspects of being a commercial pilot. So things like passenger handling and all of the protocols, phraseology that we have. I'll come back to phraseology again in a minute, and just the basic mechanics of being an airline pilot. Another issue that some of the military guys have is that if they were single-seat fast jet, they're not used to working as part of a team, as a 2 or 3 crew team. Very rarely 3 crew these days. So when we look about how an aircraft is operated in a civilian airliner capacity, the whole thing is designed for 2 pilots. Yes, you've got a captain and a co-pilot, first officer, senior first officer, whatever, but we work together very much as a team. Now, the way that the dynamics work in fast jets, whether it be single seat especially, or slightly less so in a 2-seat aeroplane jet fighter, is that the roles are quite different. You don't have 2 pilots in a military fast jet. You'll have like a navigator in inverted commas, but actually a systems operator, the warfare guy. And then you've got the guy who is flying the aeroplane to get you there to set off the bombs and rockets or whatever. We have 2 pilots working together. So one of the problems that some of the military guys have is that of adapting to that kind of environment. Right. So I don't want to be unduly negative on the ex-military guys. So what are they good at in the civilian world? Well, first of all, they're good pilots. Secondly, they're very good at dealing with things that have been talked about quite a lot recently, which is dealing with upset recovery, because a lot of their training is at the edge of the envelope, pushing it to the limit, the Top Gun type stuff, which we don't do as commercial airline pilots unless things go horribly wrong. So they're very good at doing that because they have practiced and practiced and practiced these sort of things so that the recovery techniques become instinctive. We in the civilian world have had some upset type events, so we're doing more and more training so that the responses can be instinctive. We've also talked a lot about basic flying skills being eroded in civilian aviation, and that's true because, truthfully, if you're flying 900 hours a year, you're going to be using a lot of automation because you can't hand fly an aeroplane for 900 hours a year. And the military guys, even in, full active role, don't do anywhere near that amount of flying. They're lucky if they get, a handful of hours in each week. So it's very, very, very different in that sense. Let's have a look about, do civilian guys work well in the military? The reverse of what we've talked about. And yeah, funnily enough, we've got the same basic skills. So yeah, you can take someone who used to fly airliners and go and put them in the military. Typically, it tends not to be the fast jet roles because that's a bit of a young guy's thing, to be truthful. And, the other aspect is, why would you want to take a huge pay cut and go and fly for the military?
That is true. That is true. It's not the double-edged sword that I feared then, essentially. At the end of the day, they have to do exactly the same qualifications as you, regardless of their background. So as long as they've passed those qualifications, you're more than happy to have them sat next to you in the left seat, essentially.
Absolutely. What we have to do when ex-military guys come to the civilian airliners is we have to take some of the rough edges off. So, as an example, and I said to you I'd come back to phraseology. In my experience, a lot of the ex-military guys aren't too good on RT phraseology. Now, a lot of the time for them, it's kind of irrelevant because they're speaking to other people who speak the same language. Whereas, of course, for us, we're lucky English is our mother tongue, but now we're talking to Spanish ATC, Italian ATC, Russian ATC, Chinese ATC. So the phraseology has to be spot on. So that's one area that often they get picked up on. And also just the whole dynamic of operating in a commercial environment. The military isn't around to make money, it's around to spend money, whereas in commercial flying, we're only there to make money.
And on that bombshell, that's a perfect place to end. As always, Captain Al, many thanks.
It's a pleasure.
See, I was literally so terrified, but it's like, I don't know, I was so worried that I was going to be offending people with that question. But actually, as I suppose one should expect, an interesting answer, as always, from Al.
Stephen H. Actually says, so to summarise, glider pilots are the best.
Right, okay. I mean, that works. Yeah. That works for me. What do you reckon, Nev? Who do you reckon's best, military or...
Well, as Al said, the skill sets, although different ways of execute them, you have to start off from a similar position, don't you?
True.
Completely different things going on there, but you've got to have the coordination and the skill sets to begin with, haven't you? And then you transition on to different parts of the courses to do different roles.
Indeed. Well, and as Al was saying, of course, it's like, actually military pilots are quite useful in a crisis because they're quite experienced in these matters.
Exactly.
Indeed. Anyway, right, moving on then, please, Carlos.
Yeah, next part of the show, we've got obviously the competition we had earlier on this year when we had the plane reclaimers competition to win that voucher from those guys. That was back in episode 324. And you can hear Andrew van der Sarg's entry, who won the draw. His entry was played out on episode 330. But we have got another Aviation in My Life story to hear this week, and this week's entry has come from Stephen Howland.
My name's Stephen Howland and I'm relatively a new listener, sending my first bit of feedback in. Been listening from episode 297 after listening to another airline show, and ran out of listening to their podcast, and the natural progression was to come over and found this show to be absolutely amazing. and I was extremely grateful to attend the 300th show up in Heathrow, where I met a great bunch of people. It was a fantastic day, and if anyone gets the opportunity to go to one of these get-togethers after COVID, obviously, highly recommended. Everyone is so friendly, so welcoming. It was a brilliant day, so I can't wait for the next get-together. My love of aviation didn't start off too well. I distinctly remember I was around about 4 years old, standing in the kitchen, heard a deafening roar over the top of the house, started bursting out crying, ran outside, and it was the Red Arrows. Obviously had no idea who they were at the time. Most kids would be jumping up and down with joy. I was wagging my finger and shouting at them for making such a disturbance. So things didn't start off too well. Lucky enough, things did end up turning a bit better. I ended up getting my pilot's licence later in life, and I absolutely adore aviation. It is my life. I suppose my first proper step into aviation was a scenic tour. Dad took myself up and my brother, went up in an aircraft. Can't quite remember what it was. It was probably something like a 182. And not that I'd recommend this for anyone else to do if they take people up for the first time. The pilot did decide to do a full insipid spin, which would put most people off flying, but me being a bit crazy, I found it absolutely hilarious and couldn't wait to get back up again. So after that, it was the first flight abroad to Spain, to sunny Benidorm, and again, the whole trip to the cockpit, speaking to the pilots, absolutely loved it, and that was me. I wanted to be a pilot. And going forward a few years, first air show was Great Warbirds, a place called Westmoreland, which has now been bulldozed and turned into a housing estate like most airfields. It was an amazing experience. I remember my dad telling me at the time to take this in, you won't ever see anything like this again. And what they tried to do was bring as many First, Second World War aircraft together to do a spontaneous flyover, and that image has imprinted on my memory for life, and it was absolutely profound. And the end of the air show was finished with the Vulcan Delta Wing, following the Red Arrows in very close formation, in a Delta Wing formation. And it was a very special show for many reasons. It was the last of the Warbirds. It was the last of the Westmoreland Air Show, and the first, only and last air show I had to appreciate with my dad. At that age, he saw the passion I had for flying, and it rekindled one of his passions of flying. It was the following year he started taking up lessons, fixed wing, and then he tried microlights at Rochester Airfield, which was some half an hour away from where I lived at the time. A couple of years after that, he didn't progress too far into his PPL because he got ill with cancer, and he tried to fight cancer but unfortunately lost his battle. Many years later, I went to Biggin Hill and took my first lesson. Unfortunately, I was put off flying. I was told not by the instructor. The instructor was an absolute amazing instructor, pilot. Love to meet him again, let him know how far I've come. First lesson, this gentleman took me up in a 152. Within 5 minutes of flying, he let me take controls. I flew the rest of the flight, even to the point of landing the Cessna, with a bit of a bump. And he did ask why I was flying, if I played flight sims, because he knew I hadn't flown before, because I was familiar with the controls, which I said I did. But after landing with a bump, I did say to him, unlike the flight sims, usually it ended with a big crack in the window screen and the plane engulfed in flames, which he did half the time. But he didn't realise how much of an effect, again, that had on me. I was absolutely ecstatic. I cried with joy after that. The privilege to be able to fly and to be able to land as well. That was one of my aspirations in life, and to fulfil that, it choked me at the time. But the downer side of it was the flight ops, on looking to take more lessons, told me that there was no point in carrying on unless I was prepared to take a lesson every single week. And on the money that I was earning at the time being an apprentice, that was just impossible. So I just put it to the back burner, took it as an experience, enjoyed it, and didn't think much of it. It wasn't until I got older, met my wife, got married, she realised my love of aviation and said, look, you need to fly, just go up the airfield. So at the time I'd moved very close to Rochester Airfield, the same airfield that Dad flew from. So I visited Rochester Airfield and spoke to a gentleman, Derek, who unfortunately since passed away, but he was an absolute legend. He was flight operations, and asking about gaining a PPL, he gave me the right information, and that is to go to your first lesson. If you enjoy it, go back again, but do lessons as and when you can and when you can afford it, and don't put undue pressure on yourself to take these lessons to get your PPL. There is a time limit, there is a 3-year limit to get your exams and your flying hours in, and I did push right into that limit. I think I gained it about a month or two just before the 3 years. However, being a grass airstrip, what I didn't take into consideration, and many people should, is weather constraints. You know, if the grass is waterlogged, you've got problems there, and then you've got issues with just general weather, planes being out on tech, bookings. So, it can take a while. But saying that, I still managed to get my PPL on 48.5 hours, which is extremely good. And considering that there was some gaps between 3 months, and I think not long after I got my first solo, I didn't fly again for probably about 2 to 3 months. But it doesn't take long to get back into the swing of things. So I would never deter people, and I'd always say that it's well within people's limitations to go ahead and get their PPL and spread the cost. It does seem expensive, but over 3 years, which I've done it over, it's very manageable and very rewarding. So since I've had my PPL, I've had some fantastic flights. Been over to Le Touquet in France. When I've been on holiday, I've managed to charter flights and fly as pilot and command under supervision. So I've flown in Hawaii, Kauai. That was just jaw-dropping, and I look back on the footage of that many times, and it just brings a smile to my face. But Iceland, that was again another aspiration of mine to visit Iceland, to fly. And initially I tried to visit Bar the Bunga, which was a fissure that had opened up, splurting volcanic lava everywhere, but the weather said it wasn't going to happen. So instead we had the opportunity of flying up towards the northwest of the island, doing something we can't do in the UK, and that's fly up to the ceiling height of the Cessna. Flew around, took some amazing photographs, and then a little bit of aerobatics and a full insipid spin right back down to 2000, and fly back into Reykjavik. So again, there are no limitations once you get a PPL. and I had my father-in-law with me in Hawaii, and it was great to share that experience with him. More recently, I haven't been flying for a little while. I've had a young daughter, and I like to spend most of my time that I can with her at the moment. Did get an amazing experience when she was 1. Got her to, she'll never remember it, but managed to get her in frame of the Vulcan taking its penultimate last flight down on the south coast near Sheerness, which just happens to be the birthplace of British aviation. And again, it was quite a profound moment, because it brought back memories of spending that time with my father, watching the Vulcan on one of its last flights all the way back to 91. So yeah, that was nice. So when she gets a bit older and understands, I'd like to show her the photograph. Going forward in the future, I haven't stopped with aviation. I do want to become an instructor. I do hope things do change and make it more financially feasible for PPL pilots to get into instructing. Commercial-wise, unfortunately, I've got a lot of friends that have been struggling at the moment through the situation with COVID, and my heart goes out to those pilots. They have such a hard time getting to where they've got to for that to happen. So, fingers crossed for everyone in that industry that they do get back up there and flying again. I know for sure myself that as soon as I'm able to fly, I shall be going back up there supporting the air industry, and we all need to do that. It's a very nasty disease, COVID, but with the right precautions, I would like to think things will go back to some form of normality. Hope I haven't bored everyone too much now. I'm just going to wrap it up and say again thanks to Peter UK to the invite to the 300 show. And every show that I've listened to, it's a highlight of the week. When I can, I love to watch it on YouTube when life doesn't get in the way. But your podcasts keep me happy when I'm at work, and keep it up. Can't wait till the next get together and see all the usual faces. Until then, everyone be safe, and thank you for putting up with my trouble. See you later.
See, now he's mentioned the 300th there, and that feels literally like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? I mean, what I like to refer to as pre-COVID. Now, I mean, it was just, and he said he started listening as of episode 297, wasn't it? He said at the top there that when he started watching, and that just seems so long ago now, doesn't it? But very much with you on that one, Stephen. We're looking forward to some kind of get together as soon as we've all been vaccinated and we're allowed out in public again. Can't wait. What we're going to do, Nev? What we're going to do? What's the first thing we're going to do?
Definitely a heavily alcohol-fueled
right.
production.
Okay. An alcohol-fueled production meeting. Oh, I like the sound of that.
We're literally just going to hire a humongous hall. We're going to have a whole panel. We're going to have speakers, karaoke, beer, wine.
Yeah, are you organising this? Are you, Carlos? That's good.
Yeah, I totally can. Yeah, I'm up for that.
Right. Okay.
100%.
Oh, anyway, it is time to start bringing the show to a close. But we just want to mention very briefly, if that's okay, everyone, we've got a bit of a special show up our sleeves that's going to be going out over the Christmas week.
Yes, we have indeed. So we have got a special Christmas show. As you know, each year we put together our Christmas Extravaganza show. And this year we're planning on making it, we're just going to push the bar and throw it through the stratosphere,
and just
because
and see how long it takes for me to have a nervous breakdown. That's what you do.
We are. Every single week. We have got a awesome panel of guest hosts coming on the Christmas show this year, including party of guests, I should say, joining us from all your favourite other podcasts. Too many to mention, but we have got some big hosts from some of the biggest podcasts. in the globe, and we have also got a special thing this year which we haven't done before, which is if you are a Patreon donator or you donate to the show through PayPal, we are gonna this year, as we do each year, we pre-record a Christmas show, but this year for the first time we're going to have a live audience watching us record the Christmas show, like a Zoom audience. So if you already donate through PayPal or Patreon, you would have received an email from us to invite you to join us for the Christmas show, to watch us recording that. So you'll literally be able to watch us, well, watch the chaos, really, I should say. But also, we have managed to ask and get back one of our very VIP guests from this year. So she will be joining us for the Christmas show. We're going to have Ariel Tweeto, who, for those of you who watched the Flying Wild Alaska series, will know that she was on that series. And Ariel's going to be joining us live on that that recorded Christmas show, and she'll be having loads of fun with us on there, and she's very much looking forward to joining us as well. So if you want to become a Patreon or a PayPal donator, just check out the website. You can find the links on there, and you will get an invite as well to join us for that Christmas recording. So there we go.
Indeed. Social media links, if you aren't following us already on social media, then why not? Make sure you are. Search your social media channel for @PlaneTalkingUK. Facebook, it's facebook.com/PlaneTalkingUK. Twitter is the @PlaneTalkingUK. YouTube is go to the YouTube page, search for Plane Talking UK. You'll find us on there. And our WhatsApp number is working again, I'm pleased to say. So it's +44 757 22491 66. That's +44 757 2249166, and their messages can come straight through to the studio, and we can either share them with the audience, or, as I say, it's a way of sort of sharing stories and things with us, like during the week when we're not on air, and we get a lot of news stories that are sent.
Sharing is caring.
Absolutely. Alan Loveday, loads of people send us messages on the WhatsApp to sort of to help us with the stories. And if you're not using WhatsApp and you'd rather use good old-fashioned email, then the email address is podcast@planetalkinguk.com. It's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. Why not send us in your question that you'd like us to ask Captain Al? Ideally aviation related. We don't really want to sort of go down there for the next episode of Plain Truth, and you may well feature very soon.
Yes, so don't forget, Matt, those lovely T-shirts that we've got and mugs.
Oh, yes,
well.
On the website. So it's www.planetalkinguk.com is the website. Do your shopping on the Amazon link that's also there. You can donate to the show without actually having to spend any money. We get a small advertising referral fee from Amazon if you do your shopping through the link on our website. And the Patreon link is also there on the website, www.planetalkinguk.com.
Yes, so we're going to say a big thanks then to everyone who has joined us in the live YouTube chat room this evening. Thank you to everyone for joining us and watching the show live. We love you all, and we love the comments in the chat room, because it is the chat room which really does make this show what it is, watching you guys chat in there. So thanks to everyone. And also a big thanks as well to everyone who does listen to the show as an audio download through all the relevant download platforms, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, all those ones. And if you do listen to us through those, it would be awesome if you do have 5 minutes and you could leave us a review on there as well. That would be absolutely fantastic. So that is where we are going to bring episode 346 to a close. But don't forget, stay tuned if you are watching on YouTube, because we've got a special treat for you coming up in just a moment with a certain A320 kind of affair. So I suppose we better close up the show then, guys and girls. So that is episode 346. Don't forget to join us next Friday for the next show with loads of awesome content as usual. And hopefully we'll have Armando back with us again. So from me, Carlos, here in my home studio, from Matt in the PTUK Master Suite studio, from Nev in the glorious, spectacular Nev Tech Studios, and from our producer, John, in his glorious studio, who is a legend for doing everything on the show notes side for the show every week. Thank you, John. Take care. Have a great weekend, and see you all next week.